Okay, I have one question here for the state legislature. If it's okay to set aside $5 million or $4 million, however you want to look at it, to build the governor a nice new house, why not a couple of $100,000 to help women who are victims of sexual assault? Makes no sense to me whatsoever. Let's give out the number right off the top here. 663-1270. Would love to hear from you. Yes, I'm back. Jim Walsh on SuperTalk 1270 and SuperTalk1270.com. The name of the show is Bizman Weekly. I took a little time off because, as you may know, I've been working, I'm doing the morning show right now on our sister station, KACL, Cool 98.7, the home of the great classic hits, cool987fm.com. And I just kind of needed a little time to get my head straight. But, I had to get back on at some point because, as usual, there's so much weirdness to talk about that I had to get back to it. And this is still the best venue for a lot of these issues. On a station like Cool, you're supposed to have fun. You're supposed to play the hits, play the rock and roll, and you don't necessarily have time to get into some of the heavier issues. It just doesn't seem appropriate to do so. So what I've decided to do is come back and make an occasional appearance here on the big 1270. And what I want to talk about right off the bat here, we got two stories involving, as you know, the silly season is beginning to wind down in the North Dakota state legislature. The silly season being the session, state house and state senate, the legislature. And a couple of things came up yesterday. And I just can't believe that nobody is picking up on this. Well, a few people are. But as usual, as is all too often the case with these types of stories, a lot of people are just kind of, it's no big deal, Hey, what do you want to make waves for? It's North Dakota. It's great. Everything's great, North Dakota. Woo! Only everything is not so great. Now, here's the deal. First of all, story number one. North Dakota's House wants to build a new home for the state's first family. The House voted 71-21 on Monday, approving an amended bill to build a new $5 million governor's residence. And yeah, okay, $1 million of that will be raised from private sources. Big whoop, right? As they say in the oil fields, whoop-de-frackin'-do. Okay, you want to look at it that way? Fine. $4 million of government money to build a new house for the governor. Yet, on the same day this story came out, a bill aimed at preventing rape victims from having to endure lengthy waits for sexual assault exams was stripped of its funding before passing the North Dakota House on Monday. Yeah, the bill did pass, but there's no teeth in it. There's no money in it. They took the money out. The original intent was to set aside appropriations of $500,000 to do things like train more nurses to do the sexual assault exams, to start nurse programs to deal specifically with victims of sexual assault, and to support the existing programs where they're already in place. Well, the Senate cut the appropriation from $500,000 to $200,000, and then they did unanimously pass the bill in February. The House Appropriations Committee removed the money altogether. And the story came to light again yesterday because it did pass the House, albeit stripped of all of its funding. Now, here's my question. Now, maybe there are arguments to be made against this on fiscal jurisprudence, fiscal grounds. I don't know. Maybe you could say, well, it's a lot of money and we'd really like to see how the money is going to be used, the program specifically designed for, blah, blah, blah. You could say that, and you may have a valid point, except for the fact that on the same day they voted through this bill with zero money. They also approved the earmarking or appropriation of $4 million for a new house for the governor. Now, again, if the governor gets $4 million for a new house, and they apparently didn't really have a big problem with that. I mean, yes, there was discussion. There was a little bit of what passes for controversy on this issue, but they finally voted yes. And the bottom line, it passed. This other thing didn't pass, or it passed with no money. Now, again, my question is simply this: if you're gonna be nitpicky about $200,000, why would you be so free about $4 million? That is, if my math is correct, and it rarely is, that comes to about 20 times the amount we're talking about for this sexual assault exam access. And why does the governor need his own house anyway? Let him get out there and hustle on the housing market like the rest of us. Let him get out there and try and buy a house in today's market. Let him see what it's like. Let him do it along with the rest of us schmoes in this state. Why should he be special? Really? Why do we need to put aside all that money for a house for the governor? Yeah, a few months ago, they were saying, oh, we got all this extra money from the oil. What are we going to do with it? Oh, let's do this, this, and this, and this. Well, all of a sudden, we realize that, it may not work out quite as well as we thought it would. But still in all, they justify setting aside $4 million plus the $1 million from private sources, whatever. And I'm sure they'll have no problem coming up with it. They have problems coming up with the sexual assault money, but they'll have no problems coming up with government or, for that matter, private money to build the governor a nice, fancy new place where he can live and entertain all his friends who come in from out of town. Surely I can't be the only person who looks at this and goes, hey, man, this is stupid. And it is stupid. It's unbelievably stupid. So you tell me a couple of good questions here. Number one, how do you justify this? If anybody can. I don't think anybody can. And does the governor really need a big fancy house anyway, North Dakota? I mean, what does he need a $4 million house for? What, to protect him from terrorists? Oh yeah, terrorists are going to be attacking us in North Dakota. Yeah, like that place he's been living in for the last 10 years. Oh yeah, that's going to be big protection, right? I think they ought to do it. I guess, make the governor get out there and slog around in the housing market with the rest of us. Let him see what the rest of us poor schlemiels are going through in this day and age. And it might help matters. But no, that won't happen because they're at the point now where they don't even pretend to care about us anymore. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who just don't want to be bothered. It's the okie doke. Oh, North Dakota, everything's great in North Dakota, right? No. 663-1270. Would love to get your thoughts on the issue. Jim Walsh on SuperTalk 1270 and SuperTalk1270.com with more conversation and your calls coming up.
Right now, 57.
You're never more than a few minutes from a weather update here on SuperTalk 1270.
All right, so let me get this straight here. They approved a bill endorsing a new $5 million residence for the governor of North Dakota, $4 million of which will come from the government, $1 million from quote-unquote private sources. All right. And then on the same day, we find out that the House, they passed a bill aimed at preventing rape victims from having long waits for sexual assault exams. but not before they pretty much killed all the funding. So on the one side, you have the governor's new house, $4 million. On the other side, you have new programs to improve treatment for sexual assault victims, 0. $4 million, 0. Now, hopefully they'll fix that in the future, but my question is, if they're going to be so free and easy with the $4 million for the governor's new digs, why do they have such a problem with 1/20th that amount? I mean, initially it was going to be $500,000, and then they knocked it down to $200,000. And then they said, we're going to take it out altogether. But we will pass a bill because we want to send a statement. Yeah, right. The statement is, we're big on statements, but, don't ask us to put our wampum where our mouth is. So you tell me how that's not seriously screwed up. Number here, 663-1270. 663-1270. Would enjoy hearing from you very much. Jim Walsh on SuperTalk 1270 and SuperTalk1270.com. I got to mention, of course, we had the fire yesterday, the big, what are we calling it now? Brush fire, prairie fire, whatever, a fire to the south of town. We all know about it. We got some pictures we would like to have you take a look at, and a video or two. You can check them out for yourself. Because I know a lot of folks, they want to go down and rubberneck, and they want to have a little free time. They think, let's drive down and look at the fire or where the fire was. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're just getting away. Let the people down there, let the authorities, let them do their jobs, cleaning everything up and investigating and all that. But in the meantime, if you want to see what happened, there's a great place to do so. It's the SuperTalk, I should say, the cool website too. The SuperTalk 1270 website, SuperTalk1270.com. We've got a couple of postings up there. I got them up late last night. A couple of our guys went out there yesterday as members of the press and got some great pictures as well as some video of the fire. And we also got some pictures from some of the other local media as well. So check it out for yourself. It's like a whole gallery of, so you can see what happened. And you can do it in the safety and comfort of your own home. SuperTalk1270.com. And while you're there, be sure and enter the Pothole Patrol giveaway. If you got a really nasty pothole in your neighborhood, be sure and include your name, address, phone number, the location, and if you can, a picture of your pothole. And you'll see on the website where to enter it. Just look at the little marquee thing, and it'll pop up there. You can just click on that, get right to it. And you can qualify. We got 2 drawings for free front end alignments from Northwest Tire. The place with the Ratchet Wrench in the commercial. So join the Pothole Patrol, help fight potholes where you can, and maybe win yourself that front end alignment from Cool 98.7. All right, back to the issue at hand here. Senator Carolyn Nelson of Fargo introduced Senate Bill 2284, would allow hospitals without a sexual assault nurse examiner program to start one or to coordinate with a group that can give these exams in order to, quoting here, ensure all victims of sexual assault who want the examination or who want infection treatment to get what they need. That's the basic idea behind this sexual assault exam access. Basically, to go to all the hospitals, the major hospitals, medical centers, and either start one where there isn't one or enhance the one if they already have it. Because obviously a lot of hospitals do have this. And the bill originally had a $500,000 appropriation designed to, again, specifically to train more nurses to do these exams, to start new programs and support existing ones. The Senate cut the appropriation to $200,000. Then they passed the bill in February. The House Appropriations Committee removed the money altogether. and then passed it. Why? I don't know. Why are you going to bother even pass it if you're not going to put any money in it? Well, Representative Kathy Hogan of Fargo serves on the committee, carried the bill, said she opposed removing the money, but members felt it was important to pass the policy portion of the bill. House members approved the amended bill 90-0 on Monday with 4 members absent. Now that's unanimous there, 90-0. My question is, what was really the issue here? There must have been something that didn't smell right to these folks about the way the money was laid out. That's understandable. But if you're going to do that, don't turn around on the very same day and vote to approve $5 million to build a new house for the governor. I mean, that's just being arrogant. That's just flaunting it. That's just throwing it right in the face of everybody. That's like saying, ha, we'll take care of ourselves. We don't even have to pretend we care anymore. That amazes me. 663-1270. The executive director of the nonprofit Central Dakota Forensic Nurse Examiners in Bismarck has said North Dakota has about 55 to 60 sexual assault nurses, but needs at least 40 to 50 more to meet the demand of the state's growing population. And bear in mind, the crime rate is up in this state. It's been going up, and it probably will continue to do so, because the cold weather does not keep out all the riffraff. If anything, kind of the opposite happens. Keeps them from leaving. 663-1270. Comments welcome on the website as well at supertalk1270.com. A lot to talk about today. We've got the story about this Barney Fife wannabe in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Some rich dude who was actually paying money to be a cop. He had some of the training, but he was not an experienced full-time police officer. And he found himself tagging along on a sting operation. He went to draw his taser. He accidentally drew his service weapon. He killed the guy in question when he was only supposed to stun him. Oops. Don't you just hate when that happens? Boy. We'll get to that. God, there's so much to talk about. The free range story. Have you heard about this? Now, this happened to a couple of kids in Maryland, but it's a great story because it's relevant everywhere. The question of where you draw the lines as far as how much freedom you let your kids have. These 2 kids were picked up by police in Maryland, an area I know very well. They were picked up by the police initially for walking home from a park. One kid was 10, one kid was 6. And they were picked up again. And the parents investigated again for child abuse for letting them walk alone. Walking home from a park. One was 10, one was 6. And bear in mind that in this case, there is no law against anything they did. They did nothing illegal. Yet the state has taken upon itself to interfere in the parenting decisions. Now, the question, of course, in this case is, will the authorities ever just back off and admit they're out of bounds on this? But it does lead to a more general question. And that is, you talk about these free-range kids. Is it really that big a deal? A 6-year-old child and a 10-year-old child being sent to the park to play, and they're there for a couple of hours, then they walk home unescorted. Do you see anything wrong with that? If they were any younger, maybe I'd have a problem with it, but especially the 10-year-old. And the 10-year-old can kind of be a guide to the 6. I mean, when I was 10 years old, I was all over the neighborhood. My parents encouraged me to just go out and do what I was going to do. It certainly beat sitting around the house all day. And, by the age of 10, I figure if you're old enough to go to school, you're old enough to know how to handle yourself as far as walking to and from school every day and walking to and from the park. But apparently not. Apparently some people think, no, we got to take care of these children for their own benefit, for their own good. Sheesh. I think I read that in a Marvel comic one time. I think the Thing said it in the Fantastic Four. He went, sheesh. There goes that Dr. Doom again. 663-1270. What about these free-range kids? What about them? Jim Walsh on SuperTalk 1270 and SuperTalk1270.com. With more conversation, your calls coming up.
Right now, 57.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own SuperTalk 1270.
All right, how old should your kids be before you let them go out on their own for a few hours every day? Free-range children, that's the current trendy description of these horrible parents who actually let their kids go out and play and do things on their own, unsupervised during the day. Well, we bring this up. You tell me, where do you draw the line? What's appropriate? Because when I was a kid, my friends and I was like from about 7, 8 years old on. We pretty much go out, especially in the summer. Our parents would kick us out of the house. Because we'd sit at home watching TV all day if we could. But my dad, God bless him, he'd come in every day, get your ass off that couch and get out and get some sun on your face. And we'd go out and we'd find things to do, and that was cool. But we were like 7 or 8 years old, and we never had a problem. I mean, our parents told us what to do in certain circumstances and what to be careful about. Don't talk to strangers, don't take candy and all that kind of stuff. So we were on to that. And there were a few kids who were a little bit older who would kind of keep an eye on things too. But now these kids are known as free-range kids, and we're being told it's a bad thing to let these poor innocent children run around unescorted. But here's the thing. You watch TV, you listen to the radio, you think that the whole world out there is like Gotham City. It's like one big, giant, grim urban war zone, and that children by the hundreds are being plucked from the streets every day and horrible things are being done. No, it's not happening like that. It's still a world where if you exercise a reasonable degree of prudence and caution, even a child is reasonably assured in most neighborhoods in this country of getting around fairly safely. And I would remind you, too, that overall crime is on the decrease and has been for a good while now. So, again, why the big fuss about free-range kids? What about your kids? Or what about you when you were a kid? How much freedom did you have? And did it work for you? I'm willing to bet you had a lot of freedom as a kid. If you're about my age, and I'll be 60 next year. I'm a geezer. But I had a fair amount of freedom when I was that age, and it worked out for me. Turned out fine. Well, what about you? Number 663-1270. Would love very much to get your input on this particular topic. So these two kids were picked up by the police. They were walking home. They were sent to the park. The parents said, go to the park and play for a while. So they went to the park, a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, okay? Just to tell you how old they were. And they went to the park and did their thing at the park, and then they finished, and they were walking home. They were picked up by the police for being out unescorted. And bear in mind, there was no law in the state where this happened, Maryland. There was no law against a child doing what they were doing. Nothing illegal. Yet the state decided to step in and weigh in on the worthiness of these parents. And now they're doing it again. The same two kids picked up by the police for walking home from a park were picked up again and held. And their parents investigated again for child abuse. For what? For letting them walk alone. Even though there was no law, technically they did nothing illegal. Yet the state decided And I tell you this because don't say it can't happen here. And remember, we're the state that banned smoking every which way but loose. And then we banned electronic smoking, e-cigarettes, even though basically what you're sucking on is steam. We can't have that now. It sends the wrong message. And we're going to tell people they can't smoke.
Because smoking is icky. So we're going to ban it because we're concerned citizens, not like you people. You people just want everybody to get cancer.
Blow up. But anyway, so yeah, sure it can happen here. You're damn right it can happen here. But they did nothing illegal. Oh, that doesn't matter. I swear it's 1984, man. They don't have laws. They don't need the laws. They just do whatever they want anyway. And we've been through this before. And people just, especially in a state like this. All right, a little more on this story here. The children taken into custody by county police at a park about 5 p.m. They were turned over to the Child Protective Services Agency. The children's mother said they were released to the couple at 10:30 p.m. Saturday. Now, explain to me how holding over children in Child Protective Services is any better for them than just letting them go home. The children, who are 10 and 6, have been described as free-range children. They were expected home at 6 p.m. Sunday, and when the time passed, the parents said they began looking for them. Okay, it happens. That kind of thing happens. We have been searching for the kids for hours. But here's the thing. They couldn't find the kids because the kids were in custody. Jeez. The mother said they later spent about half hour at the Child Protective Service office in nearby town of Rockville without being allowed to see them. No charges have been placed. Unexcusable. Unexcusable. Yet I've talked to people who think, well, you shouldn't have been out alone unescorted. No, I don't buy that. I ain't buying that for 1 minute. 10 years old, 6 years old, I guess the question is that old enough? I think it is. I think it's old enough to give them a little leeway there. Let the leash out a little bit. Let them go out on their own a little bit. Let them learn about life. 663-1270 is the number. I would like to hear from you. If you have, we're all, as former children, I think we are all authorities on child issues. I really believe that. And when people say, well, you don't know how it is. Well, I do know how it is because I am the ultimate authority on the subject. I am a former child. Most of us are who are adults. Some of us arguably more so than others. But we won't go down that path today, now will we? So, at what age is it appropriate to let your kids go out and run around and have the run of the neighborhood? My parents were, like I said, by the time, I would say even by the time I was in first grade, they kind of let you out in increments. So when you're 5 or 6 years old, they let you, as long as you don't leave the block or as long as you don't cross the street, stay on the block. But, on the block, you can walk around and do what you want. Okay. And you get a little older and they say, okay, you can cross the street if you know how to do it properly. Show us you can do it properly and you know what to do. And then you can go another block or two. And, gradually they kind of, like I say, gradually they're letting out the leash a little bit. And that's the right way to do it. But I really don't see a problem with a couple of kids that age going to the park. Not necessarily escort, especially if one of them is 10 years old. I would think a 10-year-old, hey, when I was 10 years old, I walked to school. It was a mile either way. And I did it not every day, but I did it quite a bit. And you don't have a problem. If you know how to handle yourself, you don't have a problem. You're a kid. You know not to talk to strangers and all that. So where's the problem? Where is the problem? We actually have a generation of people, many of whom believe that somehow this police action was appropriate, that these children should not have been on the street because, God forbid, these terrible things can happen to them. Well, see, part of the problem is that, and of course, all parents worry. No, it's your job as a parent to worry. I understand that. But things are not as bad as you probably think they are. Certainly, they're not as bad as you have been led to believe. Remember, when you watch the news at night, you know, I swear anymore the news is like you feel like you're watching an urban exploitation film. But again, you're watching the stuff that they use to get you to watch. You know, if it bleeds, it leads. Well, there's a reason for that. You're seeing all the violent stuff because that's what gets people to tune in. It's not necessarily indicative of life for you on a regular basis in your neighborhood. Now, there are dangerous neighborhoods in the world, but they are generally isolated, and it's a tragedy we have them. But if you don't live in one of those dangerous neighborhoods, if you're fortunate enough to live elsewhere, and chances are your kids are probably going to be okay. So again, why worry about them? And why bring the authorities in on it? Come on. 663-1270. I'll receive word that Percy Sledge passed away, the great soul singer. I may do a little tribute to Mr. Sledge in just a couple of minutes here. He had a couple of big hits. When a Man Loves a Woman, that was his big hit. And he had another one that I loved. I may actually play the other one because everybody's going to play the big hit. You know? I'll play the other hit. Because when they zig, I zag. And vicey vicey. Jim Walsh on SuperTalk 1270. SuperTalk1270.com with more conversation. Your calls coming up.
Right now, 63.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
All right, here's a question for you. If you're a member of the National Rifle Association, do you really feel like they represent your best interest? Because I got to tell you, I'm a former member, and they certainly don't represent mine. 663-1270, the number here. I mention this because, again, they're in the news for something that Wayne LaPierre said. First of all, Jim Walsh on SuperTalk 1270 and SuperTalk1270.com. What was the line he used? We've had enough. We've had 8 years of and I'm quoting here, a demographically symbolic president. What the hell does that mean? Oh, that means he's a president who's black. But more to the point, what does demographically symbolic mean? I think more to the point, what he's saying is he wants us to go back to the days when all our presidents were big, fat, pasty white guys with bad toupees, you know, more representative of the mainstream of America. Right. And we've talked about this before. I am pro-gun. I am as pro-gun as they come. When it came out a few days ago that they were going to relax the already relatively loose restrictions on carry permits, that didn't bother me. It still doesn't bother me. I think it's a good thing. Right to bear arms and all that. I'm good with that. Although I do think there should be some responsibility with that. I do think there should be a training program of some kind. They may have overstepped it a little bit, in my opinion. Nonetheless, I am a very staunch defender of the right to bear arms. You know, I don't go over this banning handguns and all this crap. But that being said, I was a member of the NRA for about a year. I joined after Columbine because, like many, I was concerned with what I was seeing, what people were saying, trying to demonize guns and gun people and gun culture. So I joined the NRA thinking, well, here's a place that will provide a platform for me. I can add my voice to theirs. And let me tell you, they didn't do a damn thing for me except hit me up for donations. That's all they ever did. All they ever did. About not a week, well, not a month went by when 2 or 3 times I'd get the thing in the mail asking for donations so we can preserve the in America. Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. Nobody's taking your guns, all right? Deal with it. Not even the black guy who's currently in the White House is going to take your guns. No, he's not. And not all gun owners, not all gun people are alike. Not all gun people are fat, pasty white guys who, on the political spectrum, fall somewhere to the extreme right of Louis XIV. Some of them are people like me. What I'm saying is, now I don't currently own a gun. However, I do believe in the right to carry them and the right to buy them and the right to use them for your defense when necessary. What I don't believe in is the National Rifle Association. I think they're a joke. 663-1270. What I'm saying is they sure as hell don't represent my best interest. Well, look who's back in the news here. Shelley Bachman with googly eyes. Michelle Bachman explaining God's time clock. Oh, she was on one of these wacko talk shows. We don't have any of those here now, do we? No. She was on a talk show with some whack job host. This is not even one of the mainstream whack jobs. This is one of the whack jobs. This is somebody who is so out there that even by talk radio standards, they're out there, okay? Anyway, Michelle Bachman was on this show, and she was saying, with a perfectly straight face, mind you, that the president's handling of the Middle East is a sign of the end times, and that Jebus would soon return to Earth. Oh, yeah, that, of course, and the fact that we've turned our back on Israel. Well, let me say this about Israel. It's not one of those things I talk about a lot because it's just not the kind of show I do. But I'm just going to say one thing about the Middle East, and then we'll move on from that. I don't really know what the Middle East policy should be for this country. I do know a few things. I do know that the Palestinians do have their story to tell. They are not always the bad guys. Israel is not always the good guy. And as far as our policy toward the Middle East, this country, the USA, like I say, I don't know what it should be, but it seems to me it should be something a little more nuanced than simply amounting to Israel can do no wrong. That is not realistic. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that. Anyway, back to Shelley Google with her Bachman-y eyes. She told this wacky host on Sunday. I didn't think they worked on Sunday. Oh, okay. Apparently they do. She said, I don't know what they are, but I believe the Bible, the Bibles of our nation, the peoples of our nation will reap the whirlwind, basically because the president made this deal, this nuclear deal, or is trying to make this nuclear deal with Iran. And that is a sign of the end times and the imminent return of the Messiah. Now, couple of thoughts on this. If you're a fundamentalist or a fundie, as we like to call them, I'm not even a Christian. I'm not a religious person at all. But I do come from a religious background, and I know this, that if you're a fundamentalist, you believe two things about the end times. Number one, you believe that it's preordained, it's a done deal, and that nobody, not even the President of the United States, really has any control over when and how it's going to come about. It's going to happen regardless of what anybody on this planet does. That's point number one. Point number two, if you're a fundamentalist, as I understand it, you believe that the end times is a good thing because it marks the return of the Messiah. It marks the time when Jesus will come back and crush the spirit of hate or whatever, you know. So, A, you think there's no control with it. It's a foregone conclusion. Very fatalistic approach to it, I guess. That'd be the word. And B, that it's a good thing. So if that's the case, why blame Obama for the end times? And if he is responsible for it, why would you not give him credit? Because isn't this what you want? I don't know. All right. We're going to wind down here. I did want to take a little bit of time at the end to note the passing of great soul singer from Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Percy Sledge. Now, everybody's playing his big hit on the radio today called When a Man Loves a Woman. I've chosen another one of his songs, just a little excerpt of this. This was actually one of the follow-up follow-up songs to that one. It came out, I believe, in, if I recall correctly, when was it? The spring of 1968, or thereabouts, if I recall correctly. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the late, great Percy Sledge.
I found a woman I felt I truly loved.
Song is called Take Time to Know Her.
She was everything I'd ever been dreaming of, but she was bad, I didn't know it. Her pretty smile never did show it. All I knew is what I could see, and I knew I wanted her for me. I took her home to Mama. Mama wanted to see my future bride. Oh, she looked at us both, and then she called me to her side. She said, son, take time to know her. It's not an overnight thing. Take time to know her. Please don't rush into this thing. But I didn't listen to Mama. I went straight to the church. I just couldn't wait to have a little girl of mine. When I got off from work, the preacher was there, so was my future bride. He looked at us both and then he called me to his side. He said, son, take time to know.
Remember, your comments welcome at the SuperTalk website, supertalk1270.com. Jim Walsh for SuperTalk 1270. Have a great day. It's going to be beautiful today. Thanks again for listening.